Welcome to Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network, presented by Extreme Threads. Your home for the latest news from the National Lacrosse League and indoor lacrosse. Now, let's talk some lacrosse with your hosts, Jake Elliott and Evan Schemenauer.
All right, lacrosse fans, you heard the man. It's time once again for Extreme Threads Lacrosse Classified right here on Lax All-Stars, where we grow the game one podcast at a time. Welcome back. It's Jake Elliott, it's Evan Schemenauer with you, and 4 playoff games in the books as we welcome you here on a Tuesday afternoon. A little bit of a late release here today because we wanted to make sure we got last night's action in before we recorded today, and it takes time. You got to edit, you got to book guests, you got to do the interviews, you got to do all that sort of stuff, and then you got to get it posted up on the internet. I don't know how to do that part of things, so our friends at Lax All-Stars take care of that. But we got you, we're out there, and hope you enjoy the podcast, and we got a good one coming up for you. Joining us this week will be the head coach and general manager of the Colorado Mammoth, who were victorious this weekend. One Pat Coyle, the Hall of Famer, will join us here in about 15 to 20 minutes time. And then from the Lacrosse Flash fame, it's our boy Tyson Geick. He will be on the program. No, excuse me, Tyson Geick. No, that's not right either. It's Tyson Geick. He is flourishing with the Lacrosse Flash. We will have him on the podcast. Evan, welcome back. Let's get you in here. What a weekend of playoff National Lacrosse League action. It never disappoints, but another good one here.
Well, okay, it disappoints for you and I, but for the lacrosse world, that Friday night game I don't think disappointed anyone, just how crazy it was. But, yeah, always expect the unexpected, and we're probably dealing with the biggest playoff upset in at least 5 years, maybe as far as 20 years.
Yeah.
That happened this weekend.
Well, let's get into this here. Well, actually, the first thing I wanna talk about is let's do this. Let's get into who we had. Presented by Stampede Tack and Western Wear, your complete source for boots, hats, belts, jeans, and anything country. And if you've been under a rock, well, get out from under it and get on social media. You can check out my timeline on Instagram or Twitter or even Facebook. Lacrosse All-Stars has put it out. Stampede Tack has put it. It's really pretty much just taken over the internet. Some pictures out there circulating, Evan, of me and my Western wear out there at Stampede Tack. Big thanks to Kevin Michael Winkler and the gang there out at Stampede Tack for dressing me up and taking some. These things went over pretty well here, Evan. I don't know, but I didn't know what kind of reaction I was going to get, but people really seemed to enjoy them.
I was hoping they had a bull in the back that they could have made you ride for 8 seconds, see if you could stay on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I might not be doing this podcast today if they put me on the back of a bull for 8 seconds, so I'm kind of glad they didn't. But get out there, enjoy those pictures. Congratulations once again to you for making me have to do that. Located out there in Cloverdale, find them online at stampede.ca. Shopping online is still shopping local. There was a Friday night game, there was a Saturday night game, and there was 2 Monday night games. Let's get into the Friday one. It was Colorado at Saskatchewan, the 4 seed up against the 1 seed. Saskatchewan 3-0 against the Mammoth in the regular season, but this one went the other way. Mammoth with the big-time upset here, Evan, 11-10. The final in overtime on the strength of a 6-3 fourth quarter for Colorado. And I don't know if I've ever seen the Rush kind of give up a 6-pack in a game like that, but give Colorado some credit here. Like I went back and I watched this game, and I want to touch on this in a minute here, but let's break down the game here for a second first. Like, Dylan Ward, to me, was the best player on the floor. Mark Matthews, Ben McIntosh each put up 4 points, but I don't know if that was enough out of them, and they didn't really get much of a supporting cast around them. But you got to give Colorado some credit here, and why I say that is I think Pat Coyle, who we're going to talk to, made some real depth coaching adjustments here. His defense really the offense really spread out the Saskatchewan defense. They continually put a guy behind the net, which kind of threw things off a little bit. And for me, like, the refs had their whistles in their pockets, and Colorado was really getting into guys with picks, and they just kind of seemed to want it a little bit more and played a little bit harder, and they clawed this game out. It looked like it was kind of over and done. You got that weird power outage. Like, this was a crazy game.
Yeah, everything had to go perfect for Colorado to win this one, and it did. What can you say? At 7-4, you thought Colorado was done because, even at 8-5, you thought they were done. How are they going to score 3 goals because they went, what was it? At one stage, they went.
It was almost half a game.
Under 28 minutes without a goal. I think they went 35 or 36 with just one. So you thought it was over. The blackout happens, and as much as the Rush players don't want to say it affected them, it affected them.
Yeah.
There's this delay to start the fourth quarter. Then they finally get power back on, and then the shot clocks aren't working right away. The scoreboard isn't working right away. And then, McLaughlin gets a goal, which it's a close to the crease call, and it's something the Rush would want to see. And they delayed the game another 4 or 5 minutes, trying to see if they could get a replay, which BR wasn't up at that time. So this took the Rush's momentum away. The offensive formation, though, I have to say, good on Pat Coyle, because it's not too often Derek Keenan gets out-coached in a game. He did here. And the reason I say that is that by putting that guy behind the net, it forced the Rush to take one of their defenders and put him on the post, because we've seen way too many dunk goals this year to know what that guy can do. And then Colorado took advantage of the fact that they were faster than the Rush defense. They could get the one-on-ones. The slide was a mile away, and they just beat them, to the net. And of course, then there was the controversial goal that tied this up. And there's a lot of people out there saying this is not a goal. I looked at it. I looked at it on the screen. Gardonio looked at it on the screen. Or looked at the replay, and what happens is that this ball is underneath. So McIntosh is allowed to go underneath to scoop that ball back. It then pops up, and McIntosh puts his stick over top of Ward's stick, and he's allowed to do that when the ball's in the air. And that's when he gets it, and that's why this is a legal goal. I know this confuses a lot of people as to why this wasn't goaltender interference, but by the finite details of the rule book, he was okay. Now, of course, then we get to overtime. Mike Messenger had that opportunity early. I thought it was done.
Well, Evan, the photographer for the Saskatchewan Rush, Terry, after the game, and he goes, "Do you want to see a picture of it?" And I said, "Sure." And it literally, it was in his 7-hole, so it was pinned between his midsection and his elbow, but it was like literally halfway through his body, and you could just, like, he zoomed in on the ball, and it was literally, it was inches from squeaking through there, and man, would the roof have come off that place if Messenger buries that off the opening draw in overtime. But you're right, I think that, and we don't want to spend too much time here on just one game, but the power outage definitely had an effect on that. And, for people that don't know, the Rush stayed at a different hotel that weekend. The Mammoth actually came in a day early. They came in on the Wednesday for that. The Rush didn't practice on Thursday for whatever reason. There's a Thomas Rhett concert going on, I believe, there. So things were a little different that weekend there in Saskatchewan, and I think a big culmination of it all kind of played into this one. But I'm not taking anything away here from the Mammoth, because I think they earned that victory. And part of what I wanted to talk about is I mentioned it, their picks, and they were driving guys and like hammering guys in the back and on the hips, and the refs weren't calling anything. And I mentioned it a few times on the broadcast, to the point where I had somebody kind of come at me on Twitter and said, you know what, like, we all love you, Jake, and we love Lacrosse Classified, but get off the referees because you're sounding like a homer. And I wanted to go back and listen to it because that's something I never really want to do, is sound like a homer. And just to kind of give people a bit of context here, yes, I'm a pretty passionate guy, Evan. I'm a pretty emotional guy that gets invested in the teams that I work for. There's no question about that, but being a homer is something I never want to be labeled. But so I went back and I listened to it, and, I think there was probably some truth to what this fan had to say, but I wanted to kind of put it in context. It wasn't so much that I was upset with the refereeing that they weren't calling the moving picks. I was more frustrated with the Rush that they didn't pick up on kind of the feel of the game, what the referees were calling and not calling, because Colorado was getting away with so many moving picks and so many kind of off-ball things, and the Rush weren't doing the same thing. So I was kind of like, hey, like, they're not calling it, why aren't you guys doing it too? That was kind of the direction I was trying to go in, and if it came across in a different way, that's on me. But, listening, sorry, Evan, but just listening to the last couple of calls over the last couple of days, it's really human nature for announcers to get behind their home team, and it's not an intentional thing. And, I heard it in San Diego. I heard it in Georgia, kind of those guys complaining that they weren't getting calls. I've heard it in Colorado with Teddy Jenner, who gets ultra excited when the Mammoths score and maybe not so much when the opponent scores. Granted, he's on television there in Denver, but it's just, what I'm trying to say is, it's not something that broadcasters do intentionally. It's really just human nature, and it's just because we care about the teams that we're working for.
Yeah, but the key is, they were inconsistent to the standard they set all season. And actually, if you look at that San Diego game, the number of penalties they called in that opening half wasn't consistent with what they called, and it was the same crew that they called in Saskatchewan. So, that took away from it. And one thing I got to bring up, too, is just, there was some questions about a tweet I put out. The player in question here was Jeremy Thompson. He's going into free agency, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, he had a horrible game, and he was a defensive liability out there. There was one case where it was a 2-on-3. He's responsible for Ryan Lee, and he joins the double team on the ball carrier and leaves Lee wide open right behind all three of them.
Yeah.
And it was a really, really poor performance out of him.
Yeah, I'll say this. I've seen Jeremy Thompson play a lot of good lacrosse games, and unfortunately Friday night, just, it wasn't one of them. And I'm not about to hand a loss on one guy. And again, I'm not taking anything away from Colorado, but I think you're right. I think the inconsistency of what was being called all regular season to all of a sudden, let's put the whistles away. And again, give Colorado credit. They weren't getting called on it, so they kept doing it, and I just don't think the Rush ever made that adjustment to the way that the referees were calling that game. So, with all that being said, hopefully that sheds a little more light on where broadcasters are coming from when they're calling games. It's human nature. Let's move along. Saturday, I didn't sleep at all Friday night, so I actually came home on Saturday and crashed hard. I didn't wake up until about midway through the second quarter of the New England-Buffalo game, so you're going to have to kind of help me out here a little bit, Evan. I know it was 7-3 at halftime, and Black Wolves only managed 6 goals. Jordan Durston with maybe the play of the year in this game, making an unbelievable stop, and his buddy Josh Byrne helps out on the back half of this. Matt Vince once again, stopping 46 of 52. Dane Smith with 7 points. For me, the biggest thing in this game is Buffalo went 5 for 9 on the power play. They win this one rather easily, Evan, 13-6.
Yeah, and you look back to that Durston play and just how demoralizing was it for the Black Wolves. They were down 4-1, but at that point they were actually out shooting Buffalo, and Vince was just on a different planet in that game. He started the game 23 for 24 on saves. Like, that's just how dominant he was. And eventually by the end of the night, he was 48 for 54. You can't get a better performance than that. That's about 0.9.
Yeah, I had 46 out of 52.
Like
I had 46 out of 52, but apples and oranges here.
Yeah.
It was the 4-1 in the first quarter, 4-1 in the fourth quarter, and that kind of spelt the doom. The Black Wolves just really didn't get any production, and listen, Jordan Durston in this save, if you haven't seen it, go check out the Twitter feed on Lacrosse Flash or NLL or Buffalo, whoever's got it. It's pretty incredible because he goes back and he goes for the first fake, but he doesn't totally commit. You could tell that Jordan Durston has played his fair share of some backyard lacrosse. And he comes up with he makes the save. He makes the save. And it was a decent shot from Fournier, who probably should have pulled the trigger a little bit earlier on the run when he had a better chance. But it's not like he kind of just muffined it in there. He put on a couple of fakes and looked for the top corner. And Durston just made an unbelievable play to keep that one out. And something like that, it will be a little demoralizing for you. So, Bandits, as expected, move on. We both had Saskatchewan. We both had Buffalo. So we were 1-1 after 2 games here, Evan, on who we had. Next up, it was Toronto in Georgia. And somewhere that Toronto, the last time they played there, had only scored 5 goals. You picked Georgia in this game. I picked Toronto in this game. And the reason I picked Toronto in this game, for the most part, Evan, is because of Mike Poulin. And for one, I didn't know if Poulin was going to play. Number 2, I didn't know if Poulin, if he did play, how healthy he was going to be. And number 3, even if he was healthy and played, how sharp was he going to be? Because we saw what happened with Evan Kirk in Calgary after coming off a month-long injury, and he got lit up. And I wasn't totally all in on Mike Poulin. And that turned out to be the case. Poulin, I'm sorry, I like Mikey Poulin as a goaltender a lot, but not in this game. He was downright awful. I'm going to say it, and it cost them the game.
He did, to an extent. And now, there's a couple goals in the first quarter where, Tom Schreiber takes this nasty, underhanded shot that somehow bounces perfectly into the top corner, and there's not a goaltender in the NLL that'll stop that, because when he's going down low, you're going low just to block the bottom half of the net. Then there was another one from
Dan Craig.
I think Dan Craig. That was the same thing, right?
That came from the boards, yeah.
But the thing was that there were at least 4 or 5 goals where Poulin, they got him 5-hole, and he got a piece of the stick on it, and it trickles behind.
There was one that there was an intended pass that ended up in the back of the goal.
Yeah, so it definitely was the difference. I mean, Georgia tried to come back in this one.
Well, they did. I mean, they put a scare into Toronto here. We were kind of sitting pretty up about 5 with 4 minutes to go. 16-14 the final in this one, courtesy of a couple of empty netters. But this got way closer than it ever should have.
But the other thing with this game, I gotta say, they had 3 reviews back to back.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad you brought this up.
They looked at these way too long. The second one, which was the one that Georgia challenged on a Toronto goal. It was obvious to us within about 30 seconds that Sorensen's glove is on the turf long before the ball goes in.
Yeah.
And they looked at it for 4 minutes, and it's what's going on? Then they have another challenge soon after that on a goal, and it's close, but 5 minutes of review.
Yeah.
It took almost an hour 20 to play the opening half with all the delays they had going on.
Yeah. So here's the thing, and I've been kind of on the soapbox a little bit on this since I want to say about 2016. I love how the challenge is in place. I would almost like to see a 3-challenge max. So even if you get 2 challenges right, that's it. You know what I mean? You pick your spots. You bet 2 successful challenges, you get 1 more, but that is it. And the other thing is to put a time limit on how long the official can review it. And I know different different arenas have different angles and different production guys, and some guys are better at slowing the replays down and doing it frame by frame. And there in Georgia, they were a camera short, so they only had one corner camera in one end, and the guy kind of rotated back and forth instead of having a corner guy in both corners, which was a bit of an issue there. But I really think they need to limit the replay time to like 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. If you can't figure out the call, then you go with the call that you made originally. And yeah, you want to get it right, but lacrosse is such a game of momentum that when you're taking this amount of time to make a call, it just sucks the life out of a game, and they need to clean that up. So 2 things I'd really like to see them address in the offseason is the coincidental minors and the manpower. Like, if there's offsetting penalties, go 4-on-4, play 4-on-4, 3-on-3, whatever the case is, and really have a look at how long you're allowing your officials to review their play. I want to get this quick stat in. Brad Curry, Toronto, 9 for 33 overall in the face-off dot there against Georgia. It almost ended up costing them late in that game, but for you face-offs don't matter pundits out there, Toronto still wins this one after going 9 for 33 in the face-off dot. Adam Jones with a big 9 points for that one as he played on a Monday. Thankfully, I guess it's a week off school week in Toronto, and that's why Adam Jones was available on a Friday night. Won't be an issue this weekend, as we will touch on that a little bit later. One more game to go here before we get to GM and head coach Pat Coyle. Calgary at San Diego. The winner of this one will host Colorado. And the 2 West games were probably the 2 best games, Evan. This was a real back-and-forth affair. San Diego had it in their grasp, but a 4-1 fourth quarter here for Calgary. They go 4 for 6 on the power play. Dixon and Doby with 7 points each. They squeak out a win here down at Pechanga, 12-11 as the Roughnecks move on.
Yeah, and it was a little surprising because San Diego normally does poorly in the third and great in the fourth, and they happened to flip the script on this one. Big problem for San Diego in the opening half. They took 2 majors. They are taking penalties. They played almost half of that opening half man down, and Calgary got 4. So that really hurt them quite a bit. But here's the thing, in their planning, because what was it, 3 times straight, 3 consecutive shifts, Curtis Dixon's coming off the bench and nobody touched him, and he's got an open look right at the net. And there's some guys that you're not going to pick up, but when he's on the floor, he's the first guy you're picking up. So how that happened, I don't know. But Calgary, they got the win. They got through it. They were outshot badly. But they're still going to be the favorite in the West Final. So, I'm not overly concerned with what happened here. They won and they advanced, and that's as simple as it was. Yeah,
I think, the bye week hurt Calgary a little bit. They were a little rusty to start that game, but I think at the end of it, it was evident that they had the bye week and a little more gas left in the tank to get the job done, and I really think San Diego just ran out of gas a little bit in that fourth quarter, and understandably so. In a tough 60-minute battle like that. But for me right now, Calgary, they didn't play their best. They got past San Diego. Now they're going to go home in front of their home crowd and take on Colorado, and I think it's going to be a good game. But I really think Calgary's got the inside track to the finals here for the West anyway, with Saskatchewan out of the way. So, Evan, in our playoff matchup here in who we got, what did I go? I went 3-1?
You went 3-1. I went 2-2.
So somebody's in the lead after the first week.
I was thinking it was going to go 1-3 about halfway through the third quarter in that San Diego Calgary.
Yeah, they had it. San Diego was right there, and they just couldn't kind of get that next goal that they needed. But so with that being said, I'm 3-1. You were 2-2. That means I did better than you, so I'm in the lead here heading into this weekend's games. There's 2 of them, and we will discuss a little later in the podcast. But now we got to get to break. We got the head coach and the general manager of the Colorado Mammoth on the other side. You got it locked right here on Extreme Threads Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
Associated Labels and Packaging is in the business of creating first impressions. They'll help you reflect your company values accurately by offering solutions that fit your product needs. With the latest in printing technology and over 35 years of experience, Associated Labels and Packaging is the perfect fit for your company to take your labels and packaging to the next level.
Hey, this is Garrett Billings of the San Diego Seals and the Langley Thunder. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified on Lax All-Stars, growing the game one podcast at a time.
Welcome back to Lacrosse Classified here on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network. Thanks to our friends at Associated Labels and Packaging. They create first impressions, does Sean Ashworth and the gang there at Associated Labels and Packaging. You can find them online at associated-labels.com or at Associated LP, as in labels and packaging. Brand new warehouse coming up for those guys. Can't wait to get down there and check them out. Make sure you do the same. Now joining us here on Lacrosse Classified is the head coach and general manager of the Colorado Mammoth, who were victorious on Friday in Saskatoon in overtime, 11-10 the final on that one, Pat Coyle. That one had to feel pretty good.
Yeah, it was super exciting. We haven't won in Saskatchewan before, so just that part was great. And then to get a chance to, have an opportunity to play for the Western Finals is pretty exciting.
Take us through the game plan here, because most of the night you're keeping a guy at X behind the net. And it seemed to me that you were basically just stretching out the rush defense, not allowing them to slide, and hoping your guys were just basically going to outrun them all night.
Yeah, we sort of noticed the game we played them and, some of the games before that when we put a guy behind the net, one of their defenders came with us, and their defense is such like a monster when it gets going that, especially on the slide from the 3-man side to the 2-man. So if we figured if we could eliminate that slide by putting the guy behind the net, it was a better opportunity. It just gave more time and space to our guys on the O end.
Yeah, and I really thought your 2-man game was super effective that game. I don't know how many goals you got off the 2-man game, but it seemed to be a number of them. And the other thing I noticed, Pat, and I don't want to give away all your strategies here, but I made the comment on the broadcast. I don't know if you've rewatched the game yet or not, but you guys were getting into guys on picks a lot, and it's not like I don't begrudge you for it because the referees weren't calling it. Was that something that you guys were aware of, that hey, like we're getting away with this, let's keep doing it, or was it a focus from the beginning of the game that you really wanted to set hard picks on guys all game long?
No, honestly, I did listen to your game too, and I know it's hard to see it, but we actually are. I think Saskatchewan does a different job of how they pick. They're really smart pickers in how they tend to do it with their shoulders and their hips. So
they're cheating, but it doesn't look like they're cheating.
Yeah, and NRD was getting blown up on picks, and we saw that we weren't getting called, or they weren't calling that. So we actually said, let's go pick and see how far we can push this. And, there was a couple, I think, that they could have called. I know one comes to mind with Chris Wardle, but literally the second before he said that picked, Eli got high sticked in the head. So I think they just they didn't call both. I don't know. I think it depends on what team you're cheering for. How the refs are. So
I think that's fair, and I kind of addressed that off the top, Pat. Like it's human nature to get invested and care about the team that you're working for. And maybe I was looking through green-colored goggles a little bit, and then that one, I think that's a fair comment. You mentioned Eli Mclaughlin, and he hadn't played in a couple of weeks. He gets back into the lineup, and he puts up 5 points respectively. He scored some big goals in that game. But you mentioned in your sideline interview that Eli does a lot of things out there for you, and one of them is getting space for other guys because of the attention that he attracts. For
sure. Yeah. I mean, defenses were able to sit off our left side a bit, especially when we had, basically a defender playing offense up there for a couple games. So to have not arguably, back in the lineup, it just, it's an automatic thing that it's going to give space to the other guys.
A bit of an unusual start to the fourth quarter, a blackout that delayed the game about 7 minutes. You get a goal, then of course, there's a replay issues which stopped the game another 5 minutes. How much of an effect did that have in the game in the end?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I know when the blackout came, we had just scored, and I felt like we were starting to roll there. I know it was right at the beginning of the fourth, but we sort of had we came together after the third quarter and just reminded ourselves like what we're here for. And I felt like we responded really well by going and scoring right away in the fourth. So I know some people feel like that benefited us, but I felt like it slowed us down there for a sec. But I don't know. We were like, I wanted to get going. I wanted us to go, and the replay stuff was like really frustrating. So I don't feel like it benefited us in any way.
Yeah. Have you ever seen anything like that, Pat? Like that was really weird.
No. And I understand like replays now are such a big part of our game that, the ref said we have to have replays. And I was like, well, what did we do before this? Like there was a point where we didn't have replays.
There was a point where we used wooden sticks and no face masks too, Pat.
That's right. But I don't know if we need to go back that far, but I just, I hear we rely so much on technology that,
and it was the same for both teams at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking with head coach and general manager here, Pat Coyle on Lacrosse Classified. Calgary Roughnecks got it done last night against San Diego, and now you make your way to Calgary. I mean, it's not an easy road to hoe here, Pat, going through Saskatchewan and now Calgary. But what are you expecting heading to the Saddle Dome on Friday night?
I know they're going to be ready to play. It's going to be it's a tough arena to play in. They get really good crowds, really good fans. Not just the crowds; they're good fans, and makes it harder to play there. But the way we're looking at it, we have one game opportunity to be in the NLL finals, and I know any guy in our lineup would take that chance any day.
Yeah, maybe let me ask you this. I know you guys went into Saskatoon on the Wednesday for a Friday game, and I think that turned out to be real beneficial for you and your guys. With Calgary playing on a Monday night in San Diego and now has to make the quick turnaround to go play at home on a Friday, do you guys have a plan in place? Are you going to go into Calgary early? Do you think you can take advantage of the short week here for the Roughnecks?
Again, I don't know. Some people would say that they have an advantage because they're playing so quickly that, I actually think for lacrosse players, it's better to play like every 3 games or every 3 days.
Yeah.
So part of me thinks they have the advantage because they were the most recent guys to be playing at such a high level. And, I don't know. For sure we have a plan in place, but I really try not to get into who has an advantage with that stuff. Like we just need to be in like control of what we can control, and the rest.
What's next, if you will?
That's right. What's next?
Real simple question, maybe with a complicated answer, but considering the save he made in the opening seconds of overtime, how good is Dylan Ward?
He's good. It's a simple answer. He's really good. For sure there. Like, what I said to him after the game is that, over the past few years that I've been a part of the Mammoth, that he's put in some of the best games I've seen him play in Saskatchewan, and we were never able to win there, even though he gave us a chance to win. So I felt, really happy for him that the guys actually, put the ball in the net for him this time, because he's deserved better there before. And he always gives us a chance to win. And he made a save on Ben McIntosh there on the power play that was unreal. So yeah, he's such a steady goalie.
And he's one of those guys, Pat, that really, he's solid all the time, like you mentioned, but he's really one of those guys that seems to, the bigger the game, the better he plays.
Yeah, for sure. And again, he's not our concern. It's just nice. So our game plan, we're game plan the offense, we game plan the defense, and maybe we talk to Wardo very, just be aware of this or that, but very little of us going in this weekend is talking about Dylan and what he needs to do, because Dylan's going to be Dylan for sure.
Pat Coyle with us here on Lacrosse Classified, and I know you're a busy man, Pat, so I'm going to ask you one more question before I let you go, and we'll have you back on to talk about your junior Adnex who look to defend the Minto Cup. But first off, I want to send my congratulations to you for making Team Canada's coaching staff. I think that's a well-deserved honor and a nice feather in your cap, and just, how excited are you for September to come and put on the Maple Leaf as a coach?
Really excited. It's really nice to have played for Team Canada a few times, like box and field, and now to actually be able to sort of come full circle and coach there. But, selfishly, I'm just looking to get around that level of players and the other coaches and just steal as much stuff as I possibly can for
that's really what coaches do, right? That's how you become a better coach. So. You steal stuff from other guys. And it's not really stealing, right. It's common knowledge that coaches take things from other coaches and make it their own.
Yeah. And what a group I get to coach with there. So I'm really, I'm confident in what I can bring, but I know I'll be leaving there a better coach because of who's going to be around me.
Yeah, absolutely. Pat, congratulations on the big first round win. Best of luck on the second round win. We'll all be watching Friday night from Calgary.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. That was Pat Coyle. He is the head coach and general manager of the Colorado Mammoth, and kind of got thrust into that general manager's position, Evan, with Dan Carey moving to the Nighthawks franchise kind of right as the season was beginning. And that's not an easy thing to do. Never mind be a head coach, but to be a head coach and first-time general manager, that's a lot on one guy's plate for a season.
And it's going to get even more difficult in the coming months with the expansion draft. He's got one heck of a defense. He's got a young offense that's starting to, they're flourishing right now. Which 11 are you going to, which ones are you going to protect? And you're going to lose a couple of good guys on that roster.
Yeah, there's some young talent. Somebody's going to be snapped up, no question about it. Quick break here on Lacrosse Classified, and on the other side, big team guy, it's Tyson Geick from the Lacrosse Flash, right here on Lacrosse Classified on the Lacrosse All-Stars Podcast Network.
Serving the business and sports community since 2018, Extreme Threads provides custom design apparels around the world. Specializing in lacrosse, they deliver exceptional quality and service, customizing box and field team apparel and uniforms. Extreme Threads offers free design work and takes the time to ensure you get exactly what you need for your team or club. Contact Extreme Threads at sales@extremethreads.ca for your custom apparel needs today.
Hey, it's Corey Small of the Buffalo Bandits and Peterborough Lakers. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
Welcome back to Lacrosse Classified here on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network. Growing the game one podcast at a time is what we do here at LAS. Jake Elliott, Evan Schemenauer, and now joined by maybe the biggest team guy out there. It's Lacrosse Flash's Tyson Geick. Tice, thanks for coming back.
Absolutely, fellas. Anytime, and thank you for having me as always.
Oh, my pleasure. I really appreciate you sending me that picture to post up on Instagram for our promotion of this week's show, too, by the way. Let's get into this here. First off, you switch from an iPhone to a Samsung. Second of all, you think In-N-Out is overrated. Third of all, what's with the shirtless pics? I know you got a fantastic physique here, Tyson, but I was searching the internet high and low and could not find a suitable picture with a shirt on. What's going on there?
All right, first off, don't put that on me. You went digging for the topless photo. You found it. Not that they're hard to find. But listen, you don't go getting tattoos and put them on a body and then wear sweaters all the time, right? So why would you go to the gym and, look good and then not?
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure.
It just so happens that I'm up at cottages. I'm going for hikes. The tarp's off. It's just, and maybe a little bit of an allergy to cotton.
No Jersey Devils. But
yeah, I got drafted years ago.
But then we got to ask, talking of the tattoos, you got one for losing a bet in San Diego, and you said you just lost another bet. So you got to tell us, what the heck tattoo did you get in the end?
Oh, that was a joke, Ev. It was kind of a shot at the Rush there because of the tough loss. I was betting on the Rush to win that one, but no, the tattoo was a regularly scheduled one. It had nothing to do with the bet. This most recent one, at least.
Speaking with Tyson Geick, why don't we talk about this past weekend? What game jumped off the page for you out of the four?
Oh, I think it would be easy to say the Rush and the Colorado Mammoth. That was one of the most exciting games of the entire season, and it was so unexpected. It was one of the biggest upsets since we talked about this, Ev, since 2015.
At least 2014 is where I go back to, when Calgary beat the 16-2 Rush.
Correct. Yeah. So it was such a big upset. No one really saw that one coming, and it was because of performances like Ryan Lee's. In his first career playoff game, he gets 3 goals, 3 assists, and he was absolutely fantastic. Dylan Ward was playing out of his mind, a save percentage of .815. Anytime a save percentage in the NLL is above 800, you're pretty impressed. But that was a performance for the ages from Dylan Ward. And this was just so big for the Colorado Mammoths, who are so young, and they have very impressionable players who really stepped up to the plate in some of their first career NLL playoff games. I was just impressed with this team. And then you got a guy like Joey Capito going down and scoring that overtime winner. It was so exciting. I couldn't believe it. Like my heart was racing. And I don't have a dog in the fight. I really could care less who wins, but just both sides. It was nuts.
Well, they've had to play the perfect game plan to make this happen. But I guess the question is, now they got to go to Calgary, where their record is not spectacular against Calgary in the playoffs. Do they got what it takes to get to the final?
Well, it wasn't very spectacular against the... They said they had never beaten the Rush in Saskatchewan. Or was it Saskatchewan, period?
They had never won in Saskatoon.
Yes.
So
that would make sense.
Yeah, so they clipsed that. There's nothing for them to believe that they can't do this after what they did a week ago, right?
Nothing. I think that they proved that literally anything can happen, especially in a one-game elimination. You have a bit of a cushion in the finals. You can have an off night, maybe. It's not a great time to have an off night, but you can. This is one game. If one player doesn't come to play, or a goaltender is not prepared and ready to go, I think maybe we saw a little bit of that in the Toronto Rock Georgia Swarm game. You're out. You don't have a chance at redemption. So if the Colorado Mammoth play like they did against the Saskatchewan Rush, anything is possible. You hold a guy like Mark Matthews to 1 goal and 3 assists. Can they shut down players like Dobie and Dixon, who are both pretty terrific against the San Diego Seals? Yeah. Just last night, 4 goals, 3 assists for Dixon, 3 and 4 for Dobie. I think defense is going to be really important for the Mammoths, and if they get the offensive output from their young, budding, flourishing superstars, I think they have a shot.
Yeah. Well, with all that said, Tyson, that Buffalo-New England game kind of pretty much goes according to script. I think it was going to be Buffalo from the get-go, and they win in pretty convincing fashion, but something that the NLL has never really done or had before, and that's Monday Night Lacrosse, and they roll it out in the playoffs, and they roll it out with a doubleheader. What was your takeaway from a little Monday Night Lacrosse? I quite enjoyed it.
As a spectator from home, I think it's great. I did not hate my Monday night one bit. You know, going home and being able to take in a game on a weeknight it's pretty great. It's something we're not used to, and I think we're kind of changing the game here. I know that there was some scheduling conflicts, and that's what made this have to happen. But for a spectator, like I said, it was pretty enjoyable, and I think that if we get some weeknight lacrosse in the NLL, I don't know how much of it we're going to get in the future here, just because of certain conflicts, scheduling conflicts for players in particular. But I wouldn't be mad about it as a spectator of the game.
Looking at the East Final, you got Buffalo Bandits, who are red hot. Matt Vince playing out of his mind, but they're playing a Toronto Rock that's had their number this year. So how do you see this one breaking down?
This is going to be quite the interesting game. I mean, Toronto hands Buffalo half of their losses on the season, which is pretty crazy. One of those games was one of the first of the season, so I don't know how cohesive either unit was there, but later on in the year, Brandon Slade scores that overtime winner for the Toronto Rock to come out on top of the Buffalo Bandits. They fought back, they clawed their way back into that game, and then they, force overtime and come out on top of it. So it's going to be a really exciting matchup. Toronto's one team that just has some sort of formula here against the Bandits, but with everyone healthy and ready to go for the Bandits, if this team's focused, I think they're going to be really hard to knock off. Look at Matt Vince coming into this game with a .885 save percentage. Nick Rose, 714 save percentage after Monday Night Lacrosse. So, yeah, it'll be an interesting one. I think goaltending is going to be really important here, and both teams are going to need to really play a tight game. But
all right, let's get you off the fence here, Geick. Make your pick in the West and the East for me, please.
You know that I hate predictions.
I know, and that's
here,
why
Jumbo.
I'm asking you. You got 2 games. Make your pick. Here we go.
Yeah, who you got?
Who you got?
I love that. Okay, so I would have to say Buffalo and Calgary.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm going to go with the favorites.
Yeah, no, I don't like. I think that's. I haven't quite decided yet, but I think that's most likely going to be my picks too. So don't feel ashamed of your selections or anything, Tyson. Before we let you go, Lacrosse Flash has been great all season long, flourishing, if you will, Tyson. I know some awards are on the horizon coming out from the gang at Lacrosse Flash. Are you gonna put a top 10 fight video together or something? What can we expect as lacrosse fans from the Lacrosse Flash here coming down the stretch of the NLL season?
Yeah, the Lacrosse Flash has been a big team effort all season long, and I want to thank all of the analysts and the fans, I guess, who have kind of got involved with the project and really helped it to grow, because I couldn't have done that without you guys and the fans who are paying attention to this content. So I think it's been awesome to have that kind of support. We will be putting together our own set of awards that we've all voted on, as our NLL insiders have all kind of got together and collaborated on that. So every analyst is going to have their chance to kind of announce a winner or two. And then I would like to put together top 10 videos, top 10 saves, top 10 goals, just content throughout the course of the summer leading up to things like the expansion draft and the entry draft, keeping fans entertained and just producing content that really showcases the personality of the game. I think that's something that the NLL has kind of been missing. We get the X's and O's a lot of the time. We don't see behind the scenes content, and that's something that I've tried to do with this, and I would like that to kind of continue. It's something that I don't know if people are totally ready for yet, but I want to kind of push the limits with this project. So I'm going to try to ramp it up throughout the summer too, because that's a time when things kind of go quiet for the NLL. We need to be producing that content. And then player profiles and stuff like that leading up to the draft are going to be really important too. Educating the fans about new players who are coming into the league and what that could mean for their respective teams that they may be cheering for.
Well,
but I do have to.
Oh, sorry. Go
that.
ahead.
I mean, the content this year's been phenomenal from you guys. Better than the league content, in my opinion. And, you know, from a fan's perspective where there's still a limited amount of contribution out there, this has been a godsend. And you know us. If we had a vote, you're getting our Borelli this year. That
would be incredible. And, I mean, I would be in the company of some amazing analysts who have covered this game, and it would be, like I said, just an honor to be even in conversation for that award. I don't expect it, but if that's something that comes my way, it would be a true honor, and I would be extremely appreciative of that. I just want to help grow this game and get it the attention that it deserves, and I think we needed a different perspective on it. We needed that personality. It's something that we had some momentum with NLL Relax, and unfortunately that was put to a bit of a halt. So we need to find a way to break through and reach fans in a different way. And I'd like to continue to do that. So I've got some plans for the future here. And as I mentioned earlier too, I couldn't do this without the support of, you know, the big team guys out there, the analysts that I've been working with, and guys like Pat Gregoire and Austin Owens and Adam Levy as well, who have been awesome, and Charlie Ragusa as well, who have all kind of chipped in and helped this project to grow.
Well, you can check out Tyson's work on NLL Productions every Wednesday. And Tyson, if they want to check out the Lacrosse Flash directly, throw out the website, the social media, all that sort of stuff before I let you go.
Yes, of course. It's easy to find, Lacrosse Flash, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and then you've got lacrosseflash.com if you want to head over to the website. You can check out the team who is working on the project and all the videos, and some great articles that Austin Owens and Adam Levy have been working on as well.
Well, hopefully those shirts are on the way as well, so you can put one of those on, Tyson. Keep up the great work over there at the GOAT, too. I know you've been doing some pretty cool stuff with your radio crew, and you're in for a heck of a summer over there on the island, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of opportunities for more shirtless pics as well.
No doubt. I'll keep that in mind for the future. Maybe I'll just make all the pics shirtless, Jumbo. I don't know.
I hope to join you one day in that crusade, my friend. Thanks for making time, man.
Remember, I sponsored you for a reason.
Yeah. Thanks for making time, Tyson.
Thanks for having me, guys.
We'll catch up soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure.
All right. That was Tyson Geick of the Lacrosse Flash, and make sure you're checking out what's happening over there. It's some of the best stuff. As far as content goes in our great sport of box lacrosse. One more break to come, and then we'll make our picks for the NLL Division Finals. And we'll do it next right here on Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.
Pure Vita Labs is proud to bring you the highest quality sports supplements on the market. PVL products are 100% all natural with no artificial flavors, colors, or sweeteners. And the entire line is also Informed Choice certified. We designed all our products with the athlete in mind. We look forward to being a part of your athletic achievements, helping you push the bar higher, win at the highest levels, and set personal records for years to come.
Hey, this is Dylan Ward, goaltender for the Colorado Mammoth. You're listening to Lacrosse Classified on Lax All-Stars, growing the game one podcast at a time.
Welcome back to Lacrosse Classified. Extreme Threads Lacrosse Classified, our title sponsor here on Lax Class, but also a big thanks to our friends at Pure Vita Labs. I saw they just signed on with the Brooklyn Lacrosse Club. We haven't talked about that, Evan. They changed their name from the Brooklyn Redmen to now the Brooklyn Lacrosse Club. I think they're going to have like some sort of vote to come up with a new name. I think it's very progressive and proactive. Good on Brooklyn.
I don't mind the Brooklyn Lacrosse Club.
Yeah, I don't mind it either. They might just stay with that. And apparently the Redmen didn't actually come from the indigenous kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, stereotype maybe. I don't know if that's the right word or not. But that's not the actual reason that they were called the Redmen. They were called the Redmen because their jerseys were red back in the day, and they didn't have a team name, so they just were called Brooklyn Red. And then it turned to Redmen. And then the logo came a little bit later. But good on them. for changing that. They may struggle this year with all the departures of some of their star players here to the WA, but we'll see how it goes for Brooklyn. Anyways, Pure Vita Labs, back to them. Informed Choice Certified Products, all natural supplements, best on the market. Del Bianco, Pace, Dixon, Crawford, Rogers, Marnie McCool, you name it. All the top lacrosse players are using their products. Make sure you check them out at pvl.com. Social media at Pure Vita Labs is where you can find them. Ryan Keller, Rob Leone, the good folks there at Pure Vita Labs. We're going to try and maybe come up with a little prize pack for PVL throughout the summertime as well. Evan, just 2 games. There are 2 monster games, though, in the National Lacrosse League this week as the divisional finals are on deck. And by now you know it is Toronto at Buffalo on Saturday. It is Colorado at Calgary on Friday. So now, with that all being said, it's time for Who You Got, and it's presented by Stampede Tack and Western Wear, your complete source for boots. Check out their huge selection of Cowboy and Blundstone and CSA-approved boots. They ship Canada-wide, located in lovely Cloverdale, home of the rodeo since 1967, online at stampede.ca. Check them out, shopping online, shopping local. Evan, since you did worse than me last week, it is your honor, my friend.
All right. Well, and I'm loving the fact that, once again, the games are on opposite nights. There's no overlap.
Yes.
This is the way to go.
Yes.
All right. So we're starting Friday night at the Scotiabank Saddledome. The flourishing Colorado Mammoths taking on the Calgary Roughnecks. Who you got?
Well, I am really intrigued with this matchup. You got a lot of Coquitlam, quite frankly, in this matchup. Pat Coyle coaching against Kurt Malowski is going to be a real intriguing matchup. I really like the goaltending duel that is going to happen. That's Orangeville versus Coquitlam and Dylan Ward against Christian Del Bianco. What's going to hamper Calgary a little bit, contrary to what Pat Coyle said, that they're going to have more momentum because they played more recent. I don't know if that's the case. I think this quick turnaround from Calgary might hurt a little bit, but they will be on their home floor, which is really going to help them a lot. I feel weird about Colorado. After them knocking off Saskatchewan, I feel like they kind of think anything is possible now. But I also think on Calgary's side of things, as you can tell, I'm stalling here, trying to figure out who I want to pick here, Evan. I really think Calgary kind of thinks, all right, no Saskatchewan, the path is clear, this is our year. And for me, it all comes down, and I don't want to hang it all on one guy, but it's the Jesse King factor, man. I think Calgary has been a different team since the Natural has entered that Roughneck lineup, and he's just made everybody around him better. And that's what Jesse King does. With that being said, Evan, give me the Calgary Roughnecks at home over the Colorado Mammoth, please.
Maybe it's an easier pick for me than it is for you, and it is Calgary. They are the hot team right now. Colorado, the Stars really had to align for them to beat Saskatchewan. I kind of equated in the NCAA basketball tournament, this is like a 13 beating a 4. For them to pull it off again, I don't see it happening. Everything kind of has to go the right way. So, I mean, and Dylan Ward would have to have a save percentage somewhere in the 850s. So, give me the Roughnecks. Now we're off out east of Bandit Land, and as we said before, Toronto's had their number this year. Mm-hmm. So, Buffalo, Toronto, who you got?
I just think Matt Vince is on another level right now. And for Toronto, who really kind of likes to live and die with the outside shot, and it was falling for him down in Georgia last night, no question about it. I don't think you're going to beat Buffalo like that, and I don't know if they're going to be able to outscore the Bandits, because the Bandits are going to put some goals in, and the way Matt Vince is going right now, like, you're lucky to get 8. And you know Buffalo's going to get more than 8. So give me the Buffalo Bandits at home. I'm taking the 2 home teams this week, Evan. By the way, before you make your pick, we never really solidified our bet on air, and I think we're just going with something simple here. We each get to pick the other's profile pic for, what is it, a week on Twitter? Is that what we're doing?
That's what we're doing.
Okay, so the other person gets to pick the other person's profile pic for a week on Twitter. That's our bet here on Stampede Tax, who you got for the playoffs, which will take it right through the NLL Cup. So I got the Bandits, Evan. Who you got? Who you got?
Well, first off, I'm pretty sure I know what you're picking for my profile pick already. So
oh, you do?
We'll see if I'm right.
I don't know. Do you want to tell me?
I think you're going to pick my look-alike, which makes me kind of swallow that.
I just thought of that when you're
considering. Now, this might not make sense to people in the U.S. I'm a NDP supporter, which is left-wing, and this is a conservative leader that I look like. Yeah. So
for people that don't know, look up a picture of Evan Schemenauer and then Google Stephen Harper as well, and you'll see some similarities there, no doubt.
And of course, we forgot to mention Tyson's look-alike, which is an interesting one.
Yeah, no.
And Ellen DeGeneres, right? It's,
I found a picture of Tyson back when he was trying to become like the next VJ on Much Music. He was probably about 17, 18 years old, and we were just having some fun with posting up pictures of lookalikes beside each other, and I found a picture of Ellen.
I still got that sitting on my phone.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you can put that out there for the people.
Getting back to this game.
Yeah.
I'm going to surprise you. I'm taking the Toronto Rock, and first off, I had to calculate how I'm going to catch up, and this is probably my best opportunity. But the thing is, Toronto beat them twice, and the third game that they lost, they had this crazy trip from Georgia to Buffalo on a weekend, and they only scored 6. Buffalo only scored 8. So for some reason, Toronto knows how to beat this team. Matt Vince, he gets on these hot streaks when he has a letdown game. So I think we might see that letdown game once here. Okay. So we'll have to see, but my gut is telling me Toronto's going to win this one.
All right.
So I'm taking the Rock.
Okay. Well, I mean, it could really, make the final interesting, or it could spell your doom after the divisional finals here, heading into the NLL Cup. So we'll see how it all plays out. And granted, Evan, as far as picks go this year, Calgary and Toronto, I think, have given me the most grief. Like, every time I pick against them, they win, and every time I pick for them, they lose. So that's completely possible that could happen. So I got Calgary and the Bandits. You got Calgary and the Rock. We'll see how it all shakes out on Stampede Tax. Who you got coming up Friday and Saturday. Just about out of time here on Extreme Threads Lacrosse Classified. It's actually running on schedule this week, believe it or not. A few things I want to touch on before we go. Still awaiting some webcast deals on the Junior A season here in BC. I know I keep saying that week after week, but I really feel like we're close to being able to let you know something. I'm hoping to hear something in the next couple of days in that regard. Hopefully we can bring you some Junior A games from the West this season. And out in the West, Langley off to a nice 3-0 start. Coquitlam 2-0 behind them. And then you look there in third place, and there are the Nanaimo Timberman, who I think just won around 2 games of all last year, are 2-0 to start the season. 10 for 13 on the power play to start the year are the Timbermen. Break up the team in over there in the hub city. Dave Bremner's got his boys going in, and probably most alarmingly, this new Westminster Sandbellies are in the bottom of the basement here at 0-2 to start the year, with losses to Delta and Burnaby. So that's a little concerning there in New West, and good for Russ Hurd and his Burnaby Lakers, and for Andy Ogilvie and Kyle Gandry out there in Delta getting an early win as well. It's going to be a fun year here in BC Junior A lacrosse. So stay tuned for that. Lots of guys still missing at school as well. Some other news and notes here from around the world of lacrosse. The FIL, the Federation of International Lacrosse, has changed their handle, Evan, to World Lacrosse to encompass kind of the IOC. And as we get closer to the Olympics, the FIL is changing to World Lacrosse. I really hope they figure out the situation with the Iroquois Nationals.
Yeah, I mean, the name change, I believe, was a result of the Federation of International Luge conflicting with the Olympics. But to be frankly honest, the FIL brand hadn't been around too long. I've got International Lacrosse Federation gear sitting at home still. So not a surprise. It's a little simpler to understand. So I actually like it.
Yeah, what's the Twitter handle? It's World Lac Sport or something like that, right?
I haven't even looked at it.
Yeah, I think it's World Lac Sport. You can look it up. So it just, all signs pointing towards heading into the Olympics. I just really hope they find a way to encompass the Iroquois, because for me, if they're not there, it's just not right. The NC2A bracket is out. I still need to figure out a way. Last year I used an app called Tunnel Bear that gave me a different IP address to watch ESPN down in the States. That they've figured that out on my new iPad, so I haven't really looked into finding a new way to watch ESPN from Canada. But if you're out there and you're listening, you have some ideas, make sure slide into my DMs and let me know at PXP for Sports if you got a way to watch ESPN from Canada. But the NC2A bracket is out. Number 1, Penn State, with a couple of local products. Dylan Folds, a member of that team from Coquitlam, trying to win himself an NCAA tournament. That is always a fun time leading up to May-long Memorial Day down there in the States. What a spectacle it is. WA season, Evan, just a couple of weeks away. More signings taking place. We saw a big kind of splurge of signings with Hossack and Shanks and Sorchetti. Steve Fryer is now signed with the Langley Thunder. I'm hearing Kyle Rubish is on his way to New Westminster. Ryan Keenan, of course, to Maple Ridge. So lots of teams loading up for a run to the Manor this year out in BC, and it really could be the biggest year in BC lacrosse history, with the minor nationals, the Minto Cup, the Man Cup, and the World Championships all taking place in the Lower Mainland this year. It's just incredible. It's going to be an insane summer. Yeah. What else do we got?
And I have to think is out east, like a lot of these teams are loaning players or selling their rights, and it's just going to make Peterborough's job easier. I mean, it's you can almost, I hate to say it, you can almost slot them into the Man Cup final, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, we'll see how Oakville plays out, but Peterborough's definitely going to be in the mix, and you can never count out Six Nations either, man. Like they're always going to be good. So we'll see. A couple other things before we let you go here quickly. A lot of conjecture, some rumors circulating around Vegas and the MGM group there, Bill Foley and company, with the Golden Knights, and MGM putting in an application for expansion with the National Lacrosse League. I have yet to confirm this with anybody, but it's starting to kind of circulate around through the internet. Rod Peterson was kind of the first guy to break this, and some other outlets have picked this up. I don't know how much truth there is to it or what it even really means. At this point, it's all kind of rumors, but with all that being said, Evan, I'd really love to see a team in Vegas, as I know you would too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm a part-time Vegas resident throughout the year. And, I think the people of Las Vegas would eat this up. And the reason I say that is, if you see how crazy they've gone over the Vegas Golden Knights in person, it's even bigger than what it even looks like on TV. And it's mostly locals in that rink. The difficulty is that Vegas has a fairly low average income. And a lot of people can't afford to go to Golden Knights games, and that's why you see 1,500 people plus at the practice facility watching them practice, because they want to have something to do, some tie to the team. And when you listen to the crowd in there, they love the hitting aspect of hockey. So if they love the hitting aspect of hockey, they're going to, crawl for lacrosse. The difficulty that remains, and if Bill Foley can figure this out, fabulous. But if you looked at the schedule this past year between December 1st and April 20th, there were only 9 slots open on Friday and Saturday nights.
Yeah.
So you'd have to schedule this thing perfect. And then for those that don't understand Vegas, Friday night and Saturday night are your big nights because that's when the tourists are there. If you put something Sunday afternoon, nobody attends. And I get these free tickets to shows all the time. The night I get the best free tickets is Sunday because nobody's there. So you want to avoid the Sundays altogether.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. It's just, like I said, it's all speculation right now, and I think I really think the next wave of expansion, you're going to see Western teams come in, no question. If I had to put some money down in Vegas on who those teams would be, I would probably put San Francisco and Nashville at the top of the list as far as the 2 next expansion teams to come in. But we'll all just have to wait and see, and we should get some announcements coming in that regard, probably middle of summer, late summer, something like that, right around before the expansion draft, I would think. The last thing I want to mention here on Lacrosse Classified, and it's something I never want to have to mention, and that's the loss of a life. And unfortunately, it's somebody that I've known since he was just a little baby, and it's the son of a former Sandbelly teammate and goaltender of mine, and Rick Mang, and his son Riley, who lost his life suddenly and tragically 3 or 4 days ago, and I know the lacrosse community has reached out to Rick, who's doing as well as can be expected, and just, the loss of a child, Evan, I can't ever imagine what kind of pain that must be, and I don't ever want to have to experience something like that. Rick's a very strong man, and he's got a good support system around him, and he's going to get through this with the help of people like myself and his friends and the lacrosse community. But I just want to give my thoughts and my prayers and condolences to Star and Rick and the entire family there, because that is a tragedy that nobody should ever have to experience, and my heart goes out to him, man.
Yeah, I could only imagine if losing one of my kids, and it's a thought I don't even want to fathom.
Well, we're all thinking about you, Rick Mang, and if you want to reach out to Rick, he's on Facebook, and I'm sure he'd love to hear you. And just with that being said, I know I'm using that being said a lot here today for some reason, but anyways, with that being said, his celebration of life will take place Saturday, May 11th at the Coquitlam Sports and Leisure Center, the Palace on Poirier there in room number 3. So if you knew Riley or if you know Rick and you want to come pay respects, Saturday, May 11th, 2 to 4, room 3 at the Coquitlam Rec Center. All right, that's going to do it here for another week. If you ever need to get a hold of me for whatever reason, just want to talk, you got any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, you can find me at PXP4 sports@gmail.com. That is my email. PXP for Sports is my Twitter handle, my Instagram, my Snapchat, my Skype, you name it. If you ever need to get a hold of me, PXP for Sports. Don't forget Evan, he is at Shem Lax. The show is at Lax Class. Subscribe to that podcast, folks. That way you never have to worry about it. It gets delivered right to your phone, and you never miss an episode. Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify. Wherever you find your podcasts, you will find Lacrosse Classified, courtesy of Lacrosse All-Stars. Big thanks to Pat Coyle and to Tyson Geick for coming on the program, and of course to you, the loyal listener. Really appreciate you checking out Lacrosse Classified, presented by Extreme Threads every single Tuesday. For Evan Chevenauer, I've been Jake Elliott, and for the fastest game on 2 feet, and for the creator, thanks for listening to Extreme Threads Lacrosse Classified on the Lax All-Stars Podcast Network.